Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we continue talking about American businesses who are kowtowing to China because they love making money over there more than they love freedom and standing up for what's right, meaning American ideals and freedom of speech. This time it's the Blizzard video game company that's coming into question. They recently had a series of controversies involving them caving into China's authoritarian demands in hopes to keep their access to that big communist nation's huge customer base and many dollar bills. This all started with them in much the same way the controversy started between China and the NBA. It all came about because there was discussion being had about the current protests going on in Hong Kong, and this is what sparked the issue with Blizzard video games too. In Blizzard's case, one of their video games had a pro player who became outspoken and in support of Hong Kong. This of course angered China, who's been trying to lock down that once free and semi-autonomous region for ages now. So when this pro gamer spoke out, China decided to exert its influence with the company Blizzard, who then gave in and decided to harshly punish this outspoken gamer. For more details on the first leg of today's story, let's turn to an article from Business Insider called "Blizzard is Under Scrutiny from Lawmakers, Gamers, and maybe even its own employees after punishing a Hearthstone competitor who voiced his support for protesters in Hong Kong." Well, this is not a good start so far. Let's go ahead and see where this story goes then and see what happens. A single act of protest during a video game competition in Taiwan has garnered international attention and massive backlash against one of America's largest and highest profile video game companies. Blizzard Entertainment is facing major criticism after punishing Blitz Chung, a Hong Kong-based esports competitor who voiced support for Hong Kong's protesters during a Blizzard-run event on October 5th. Blitz Chung, whose real name is Chung In-Y, is a Grandmaster-level player in Hearthstone, Blizzard's very popular digital card game. During Blizzard's official broadcast of the Asia-Pacific Grandmasters competition, Blitz Chung appeared in a post-match interview wearing a gas mask. As the broadcast ended, Blitz Chung shouted, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age," with the apparent support of the two tournament broadcasters. And, as most of us know already, Hong Kong has been suffering from civil unrest for a good long while now, and anyone with any integrity knows that backing the protesters there over the human rights violating Chinese oppressors, that's really the way to go. But as we mentioned before, Blizzard isn't on the right side of history for this one, and it's not only because they want to sell their games to China either. Also, in addition, the company Tencent, which is one of the Middle Kingdom's biggest companies, they own a 5% share of Blizzard as well. And in addition to partial communist ownership, as we alluded to earlier, Blizzard is also running numerous other deals with Far East interests, including their work with NetEase on the Diablo Immortal game, and also the Chinese revenue they are currently receiving from games like Overwatch and Hearthstone, which include video game sales and also ongoing microtransactions. Put all of this together and we can see why Blizzard quickly acted when China gave them the call about this Blitz Chung gamer stepping out of line. Blizzard responded to Blitz Chung's comments by stripping him of any prize money he would have earned for the tournament and barred him from Hearthstone competitions for 1 year. Damn. Blizzard also said it would no longer work with the two broadcasters who were interviewing Blitz Chung during his comments. The company deleted the match and interview footage from its official channels as well. Hearthstone has an international tour offering $1 million in prizes for top-level players this year. Blitz Chung had earned at least $3,000 from his wins so far, with the potential to earn more in the competition's playoff rounds. So, while they only took away $3,000 from the guy at first, they're also limiting his ability to earn more in the future. But part of this story has changed and been updated after Blizzard faced immense backlash because of this. They since decided to give Blitz Chung back his money, and also they shortened his ban to just 6 months now. And while that does sound slightly better, it's still not a good look for Blizzard either. And also, the damage to them and their company's reputation is already done here. Clearly they are kowtowing to China, much like how Disney and the movie industry has been doing for years. And also, more recently, the National Basketball Association has been caving into them too. And, much like the NBA, Blizzard obviously cares more about raking in profits than they care about upholding American values. And this is also a horrible display of how corrupt late-stage capitalism like this has become. Without any of these American values controlling things and keeping people honest, and our nationalism and freedom of speech getting in the way, neoliberals are now turning into literal communists who think they can make money freely and openly, and they will do so by supporting horrible states who have grossly violated human rights, all in the name of making even more money, despite of course these companies already being obscenely rich before this. It's also extremely hypocritical since these same pro-communist companies will also turn around and push social justice warrior causes at the same time, trying to virtue signal about being being woke and supportive of LGBTQ alphabet people as well. For example, the NBA, of course, notoriously canceled their All-Star game, which was scheduled to be in Charlotte, over a bogus neutral bathroom issue going on there. And in addition, the star of today's story has dabbled in its own brand of social justice too. Blizzard even went so far as to make one of their characters gay and bi or whatever, in order to pander to alphabet people. One of the characters named Tracer has become gay in one of their best-selling first-person shooter games called Overwatch. More on that game's drama is coming too, but first, let's acknowledge how hypocritical it is for Blizzard to make pandering characters like this, while also trying to pander to China, who of course is pretty anti-alphabet people if you hadn't heard. In fact, to make this part of this story even worse, that gay Overwatch character named Tracer, well, funny enough, they were not made gay in China actually. Now, that's a pretty rich insight right there, and pretty hypocritical too. It's very easy for these companies to promote social justice and bullshit like that while they're in America, where there's literally nothing at stake here, and it's easy for them to speak out against our leaders too, like going anti-Trump, which happens all the time, and that's easy to do here in the United States because there's no risk and we have freedom of speech. But when it comes time to protest and speak up, and when it actually counts and matters, none of these businesses dare to speak out against China and its oppressive leader, because that would actually have repercussions for them. Namely, it would cost them money. Next, let's move on to the newer part of this story. Following the fallout from the banning of this pro-Hong Kong professional Hearthstone player, Blizzard faced a lot of backlash, as we mentioned. In fact, it got so heated, people started protesting the company itself online, vowing to no longer buy or support Blizzard products, some even canceling their pre-orders for upcoming titles, in solidarity for the pro-freedom and pro-democracy side of this whole situation. In fact, things got so heated and people became so against Blizzard in the public, it resulted in them canceling a live event, which was set to happen last week in New York City, a release event for their Overwatch game on the Nintendo Switch. That game, Overwatch, is finally coming out to Nintendo Switch now, just last week, and they had a launch event scheduled for it and everything too, but in light of these recent developments and this controversy, Blizzard decided to call that whole event off. An article from Polygon has more details. It's called Blizzard Cancels Overwatch Launch Event in Nintendo's New York Store. Check this one out. Blizzard Entertainment has canceled its launch event for Overwatch on Nintendo Switch, which was scheduled for October 16th at the Nintendo Store in New York City. Nintendo announced the event's cancellation late on October 14th, saying, "Please be aware that the previously announced Overwatch launch event, scheduled for Wednesday, October 16th at Nintendo New York City, has been canceled by Blizzard." Nintendo tweeted from the Nintendo New York City Twitter account, "We apologize for any inconvenience this may cause." Neither Blizzard nor Nintendo gave a reason for the event's cancellation. Polygon has reached out to Blizzard for more information. Overwatch launches on the Nintendo Switch today, when this article was written, which was a week ago. And well, I think it's pretty easy to figure out why they canceled this. Seems a little in poor taste to hold a celebration-like event for a game while you're also being protested and ridiculed in the media and public for kowtowing to communists. In addition, this game of course has its own internal hypocritical streak in it as well, with it having a character be gay in America to pander to SJWs here, while at the same time, the Tracer character was made straight in China to pander to them as well. Combine this hypocrisy with the banning of Blitzchung, and well, you might even say Blizzard made the right call to not go forward with this event here. Sure, this is a mess they got themselves into, but at the very least you can say they are trying to make things better, albeit a little too little and too late. Should have just not become pawns to the sleeping giant nation over there in the first place, but I also understand all those billions of dollars are pretty damn tempting too. If Tencent offered me half that much money, I might consider changing the name of this channel to Comrade Bullshit. Sure, I would be going against all of my principles and beliefs, but I would also be filthy stinking rich. And money often makes people much more happy than integrity. Kidding, of course here, guys. Don't worry. I'm very content with the situation I have, and I would much rather be poor or middle class while holding on to my values, freedoms, and integrity over selling out and selling my soul to the devil in order to get overly rich. Again, I have to ask here, how much money is enough money for these guys anyway? Blizzard was already filthy stinking rich for years, and they could still be billionaires without selling to China at all, but instead, they've sold out to them, and they've corrupted their own moral convictions all so they could add a few more zeros to their bank accounts, which already contained more money than they could spend in multiple lifetimes. Consumers are now boycotting Blizzard products and have turned Overwatch hero Mei into a symbol of ongoing protests in China. Some are planning protests at Blizzard's annual fan convention, BlizzCon, which is held in Anaheim, California in early November. Replies to the cancellation tweet, or really anything Blizzard has tweeted recently, may illustrate why the developer is hesitant to host the Overwatch launch event. Most most responses are critical of Blizzard's decision to suspend Chung, many of which include fan art of Mei as a Hong Kong protester. Protests are ongoing in Hong Kong as demonstrators fight for 5 demands, including universal suffrage and an investigation into the Hong Kong police force. And well, again, it's really hard to feel sorry for Blizzard here. While protesters in Hong Kong are fighting for basic human rights and also defending themselves from vicious attacks from the communist police, well, Blizzard could really care less about all that, at least if supporting freedom and democracy gets in the way of their bottom lines. Wouldn't be so bad if Blizzard wasn't also trying to get woke and pro-SJW at the same time, as we already went over. And in addition, it's even more objectionable since they really don't need any more cash. I also can't help but think of how far from grace Blizzard has fallen over the years here. They were once a world-renowned, much-beloved company, particularly in the United States. We actually just recently covered a South Park episode where the Blizzard company was featured in it prominently, and they were mostly shown in a positive light as well. Make Love Not Warcraft was the South Park episode in question, and the South Park crew made it with full cooperation and additional support from Blizzard's team as well. I doubt these two groups would get along much these days anymore, and I doubt South Park would even want to have them back on the show at all, since that show and its creators are one of the few people in entertainment right now who's calling out this China pandering bullshit. And now Blizzard, after once being cool and hip and relevant enough to be featured on South Park, well, about 10 or so years later, and now they've become everything that show hates and everything that they and we stand up against. What do you guys think? Is Blizzard Gaming going downhill? Should they have banned that player for speaking out for Hong Kong? And what do you think about them canceling their Overwatch launch event? Was that related to the controversies, which appear to be pretty obvious reasons? And do you think Blizzard protesters and detractors will show up to take a stand at their upcoming BlizzCon convention in Anaheim? I think they probably could, and they probably should, and I guess we'll just see in time. Comment your thoughts on everything below, and thanks for watching No Bullshit. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see y'all next time.